I know I've been pushing and prodding you in the chat to give because we're trying to get it to $8,000. So let's take a look. Oh, we are so close. We are just $55 away. Is there someone who could help us get to $8,000? If you can, please give us a call. Call 678-730-0010. Our staff is still answering phones. You can also donate online. So, please bring anything you can do will help. So, all feeling nice and relaxed now. I feel like I been hypnotized with Gigi's soothing voice and so now is a great time to pull out those credit cards and give a small gift of something that you can do. All right, so up next, we have a very special guest. It is Kathi Grupp, our host of Textiles and Tea, and she's going to join me for a little chat. Kathi, if you want to go ahead and start your video, we're going to talk about textiles and tea and our favorite moments and funniest moments. So let's go ahead and bring Kathi on here. Kathi, I see you. Maybe she stepped away. That happens to all her guests. They like to step away. Okay, Kathi, Julie, are you reaching out to her for me?
Yep.
Oh, there she is. We got her. Okay. Did you step away?
Dog started barking at the moment. So I gave her a treat.
Oh, yeah, I do that too.
All right.
All right. Well, this is Kathi Grupp, our former advertising partnerships manager and our host of Textiles and Tea. Thanks for being on at this late hour. Let's talk.
First of all, I am in my nice fuzzy robe and my fuzzy slippers, and I've just been curled up watching everything all night long. It's been wonderful. I want to say hi to all you owls, you late night owls who are hanging in here watching. Hi to all you people out in California who are chilling out, just had a nice dinner, you're enjoying us. And hey to our buddies in Hawaii. You never get anything right at the right time. So we love our guild in Hawaii. It's amazing. And I hope y'all are watching. So thank you so much. So I always get asked about textiles and tea, like what really goes on, or who's been the worst, or who's been the best, and that sort of thing. So we were talking about doing something like that for tonight. And then I realized it isn't so much people, but kind of categories of things that have happened or that make textiles and tea so unique. Now that I've said that, I have to start with who is intimidating. And I don't want to name names, but I'm going to. I have to say that interviewing Sheila Hicks was the hardest thing I've ever done. She was a delight. She was so kind, but she was Sheila Hicks. And it was scary, but so wonderful. She was so nice, and it was just amazing to talk to her. I really enjoyed it. She was so kind to come on and do the program. Gerhard Nodell, another one. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk to him. What could I possibly ask him? And he was great. He was wonderful. And I really enjoyed talking with him. Michael Rohde. There was just so many people that it was a pleasure and an honor to interview. And I still have some coming, I hope. But we always laugh about how the funniest thing is Sally Orgren is my buddy on this one, how people get up and leave when I'm talking to them. And I remember the first time it happened, somebody said, well, let me show you this. And they left. And I'm like, okay, Well, thank you for watching Textiles and Tea. And we have some new people coming. It was like, what do I say when people get up and leave? And now it's a running joke. People, I mean, I think 2 weeks ago, somebody got up and left and went and got something and came back. So it's so funny that those are the kind of things that you remember and you think of when you're doing Textiles and Tea. Losing the internet connection. That's always an exciting thing to happen. And if you watched last week, that happened, and I thought it was me. I thought I broke something or hit the wrong button. And come to find out, AT&T lost all internet, all cell phone coverage, everything from my little neighborhood. I even drove to the library really quick to try to do it. And I didn't care, except it was Arturo Sandoval, who was my mentor. It's how I got into weaving. So it was kind of, if anything can go wrong, it will. But there's always those kind of things, and you find a way to go around it. And you do the end of the program in the middle of the program while you're waiting for someone to come back on. The other thing I've really enjoyed is learning about people and what they've been through or how they got to where they are. And one of the biggest ones for that was Margaret Roach Wheeler. And a lot of y'all know her, and she's such a delight. And I'm interviewing her and I'm doing all this research, and I find out she had a massive stroke. And we were all like, no way. There was no signs of any kind of disability, but she had been through a lot. And I have to share this story. I don't think I've told anybody on the air that a friend of mine's husband had a stroke, and he watched the program, and he told his wife that that really impacted him, because he was like, if she did it, I can do it. Oh, that just got me goosebumps again. When she told me that story, I was like, that's amazing. It's just wonderful when you share your story, how it can impact on other people. I've learned a lot about, Bonnie Tarsus was another one. She shared a lot about how she helped her grieving through her fiber. And again, she shared a lot. Some things that she had not told hardly anybody, and she shared on the air. And I will always be grateful for her kindness in doing that. The other thing is I learned a lot about fiber. You think you know so much. Oh, I've done that, been there, got a shirt kind of thing. And then I would meet people and they would tell me about fiber things they were doing. One of them I truly enjoyed was Emily Devoren, and she used some bizarre things in her fiber sculptures that were amazing. If she'd shown me, oh, I'm going to use this, I would have thought it's not going to happen. How can you make anything gorgeous out of that? But she does. And she was really interesting. Jane Milburn from Australia, New Zealand. I know all you Australians and New Zealanders are not happy I'm doing this. But anyway, she's from down under. And she took just clothes that nobody wanted, scraps, leftovers, goodwill kind of stuff, and made these beautiful clothing out of them. And it was as much about her attitude about it as it was her artistic ability, which she had plenty of. But she was very clear how important it was to reuse and make things last and not fill up landfills. So I love that kind of knowledge and passion that if I've never interviewed her, I've never would have heard any of that. I enjoyed Lily Marsh. She was a hoot, and she has learned so much from a degree in agriculture and then farming and fiber and a mill, and just to hear her journey about and her passion. Again, she was so passionate about what she was doing, just very clear about what she was going to do and how important it was. And then just recently, Rebecca Hutton from Scotland, was she not a hoot? And again, she was keeping an old tradition alive, and she knew what she wanted to do. She knew what she had to do it. And no matter how much grief she's gone through to make it happen, she's done it. So those are the kind of things that I really have enjoyed, and I hope you all have too, that we have gotten from interviewing some of these people. We've had a lot of people that have been so much fun. Angie Parker was a hoot. Mara Wood was so much fun, but a lot of people were eager to share their lives and their work. And I hope you all have had an opportunity to see some of these people and gone back and watched them over and over again, because I know I have. Somebody wants to know whether profound statements. I think, I don't want to try to quote anybody, I'll probably get it wrong. But mostly, I think I was struck by how clearly people understood how fiber impacted on their lives, either therapeutically or it changed the course of their lives. I love stories when people kind of came into their own. They were working as a clerk somewhere and putting the third screw into the fifth panel at on the assembly line. But when they came to their artwork, they knew who they were, and they kind of reveled in that and kind of came into their own. Yeah, somebody said all those quotes you wanted to paint on a plaque. I know, I guess I should have wrote them down, shouldn't I? Yeah. But I loved it when people would come up with all these great ideas and shared their perception of what fiber was for them and how it impacted on them. Any more questions, comments?
Well, Kathi, it's interesting when we think about the very first episode, Mary Zicka Food.
Yes, how could I have not mentioned her? Yes.
And, we had this crazy idea and I knew it was going to be big. You were not, you thought it was going to last a year, and it has impacted you, and this program have impacted the fiber art community in such a way. I mean, we would get, and we still do get emails from those of you who watch them just saying how the show has touched your lives, or how you don't miss an episode. We know some of you get together and watch it as a team every Tuesday. And that, I mean, reflecting back on where it was and how do you think you grew as someone who researches these artists and prepares your interview questions? How have you grown through this practice?
Well, I think in one way, I'm not as in awe of people. That sounds terrible, as I used to be. I'm in awe of their skills and their knowledge. But I mean, like interviewing Mary Zicka, I was like, what if she doesn't want to talk to me? Why would she want to talk to me? And yet she is one of the sweetest, nicest people you'd ever want to meet, right? And I've always said fiber people are the best. We are the best. And I think that's one thing is I've realized that everybody has a story, and they've been through a lot, and we all have fiber in common. And I don't know that I've ever run into anybody who was like, well, I'm, a famous fiber artist. Everybody appreciates whatever level you are, whether you're a hobbyist or a professional artist or a teacher or whatever you do. So I think that's one thing that I've really enjoyed, is that all these people have this great connection. And they're also very unique. I mean, I like not too long ago, it was so funny because we had like two women who were doing the TC2. And in the middle of that, we had someone who was doing, just basic weaving, like plain weave. And I just thought it was wonderful that here's the two extremes and they're both magnificent. The work they do is beautiful and it can be well appreciated.
Well, one of the things you have to do is you always tell your guests is you have to make sure that you read the chat when we're done here so that you can see all the comments. But Denise Smith has a question. Denise would like to know what is your favorite tea?
Oh, it's a running joke. I'm a chai addict. They need to do an intervention on me because I spend way too much money. I drink way too much chai. Whenever we go to Convergence, the first thing we figure out is where's Starbucks and can I get my chai?
Because you have to have Starbucks chai, don't you?
Yeah, I really like Starbucks best of all. but I am, it's an addict. It's sad. It's very sad.
At least you know it and you admit it.
I do. I do.
Well, I appreciate everything you've done. It's been so much fun to work with you. And I think back to when we first started, we scripted this, and what a lot of people don't see is what goes on behind the scenes,
Oh yeah.
the research, and then you and Mandy meet with the artist and you clarify the questions, and you talk about, we don't talk about what they're going to discuss. We make sure we have the right images, and then we put it all in a PowerPoint. We script it out, and you meet with me, and I try to dumb it down because I'm like, well, what is this? Because I'm always thinking about, I know we have a lot of beginners that watch, and I want to make sure that if we're talking about a TC2 loom, that we explain what a TC2 loom is. So I try to bring that perspective, and we map it all out. So it seems very organic on screen, but everything's mapped out and planned, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it to make it look as good as it does when we do it live. And
Yeah,
so,
the one thing I always tell people, Mandy's so sick of me saying this, but when we do our rehearsals, the first time I meet with whoever our guest is going to be, one of the things I say to them is, look, nobody cares what I'm asking. Nobody. All they want to know is what you have to say. And we try to make sure our guests know that. So if they go off on a tangent, I mean, some of the best textiles and tea we have went off questions and just they told these stories, or and I love it when they go, do you mind if I tell a story? It's like, yes, we want to hear your stories, we love your stories. So that's one thing we try to make sure that our guests know, is that this is about them. This isn't about me or my questions or HGA or anything. We want to hear what they have to say.
well, I appreciate you for taking time to chat with us about it today. And this was a little bit more than our 10 minutes because Julia and Sally are next, and they were like, we don't want 20 minutes. Julia said 15, 15. I knew I could stretch you out to 15 minutes.
Well, one thing I have to say, I have to interrupt here, is that I feel bad because everybody thinks I'm textiles and tea, and I'm not. And it has taken everybody in the office to make this happen. Either Mandy is a miracle worker behind the scenes. You have made this happen and you've supported it, and you refine it and make it look great when we go on the air. It takes the three of us to go on the air. And I don't think people understand that a lot of time, is that I can't do the bells and whistles. I just sit here and talk. And not only that, the rest of the staff, they've supported it. They understand how important it is. Oh, it's textiles and tea stuff. We're going to help you do that. So I just want people to know, even though I'm the talking head, I'm only one of many who makes this program happen.
And even the staff that's not on the actual program or behind the scenes of the program, they're coming up with ideas for artists. I know I'm always, if I see an exhibit, I'm looking to see who the weavers are in that exhibit, and then I'm sending that name their way to you and Mandy. And many of, some of it's, a lot of the artists we've featured have been suggestions from staff. And then not only that, there was a presentation we did where the artists had very short answers. And so we went through all the questions, I think, in 20 minutes. And it was just you and I on that one. We didn't have Mandy. And I'm messaging you questions. You're trying to come up with questions. We're trying to fill up that hour. And our staff, they often have textiles and tea running in the background while they're working because they want to see it too. And so if we need questions, they send it. They'll start.
Yeah, I'm trying to discreetly text them, send me questions. I'm running out of ideas.
And Mandy is so good at keeping up with you on the PowerPoint because
She
you
is
like to jump
wonderful. I
around
know I drive her
sometimes.
crazy, but she does a wonderful job.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. I know that it's a program that everybody enjoys, and it's free. And I think we talk about HGA in that sense of community, and textiles and tea has probably been one of the biggest drivers for that, because it's something that people talk about. They talk about it with each other. They say, did you see this episode? Did you know this artist? And being that it's completely free, it's an outreach for us too. So when you join HGA, when you donate, you're helping to support this program. You're helping to support this community. It's how we get these artists to come in and have these wonderful conversations. And Kathi, we appreciate you for being the host.
Well, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Well, we are going to let you get back and relax in your
Yes.
holy robe, and I'm going to bring Sally and Julia on next because they're going to talk about how to write about writing an article for the magazine. So thanks,
All
Kathi,
right.
so much.
Good
We
night,
appreciate
y'all.
you. So Sally and Julia, if you want to go ahead and turn on your cameras and unmute, you are next. Take it away.
Thank
We're
you,
awake.
Liz.
Yay.
We are.
And welcome to those of you, like Kathi said, we in Swedish, I think you're called narugalas, but those night owls that are out there with us. Welcome. And Julia and I are kind of tired and we've had a long day and we have a magazine deadline waiting for us, but we wanted to take a minute and kind of maybe let you know about the process for assembling an article or pitching an idea to us. And I was thinking that Julia doesn't know this, but during the course of the day today, we actually got one of the articles that we've been waiting for, possibly for the next issue. But the process of articles actually happens a lot earlier than the typical production cycle. So it could be as much as 6 months, or in some cases, maybe as long as a year, and for articles to come to fruition. And so a lot of times what happens is maybe somebody has an idea and they might send me an email or talk to Julia on the phone about the idea. And the conversation, we might ask some questions about the idea. And if you're going to send an email, for instance, to us, you might want to sum up the purpose of your article in a few sentences, like in a paragraph. And I think that sometimes helps clarify people's thinking, because sometimes they have an experience and they're all excited about the experience, and we get sort of a disjointed idea. And so a lot of times that's where I'll either pick up the phone and call somebody and ask some questions. A lot of times I'll do that because I want to quickly determine if there's potential there or not. I don't want, if somebody's going to go to the effort to submit a story, I want it to have a pretty good chance of appearing in print. So we like to try and steer people toward things that we're interested in. And sometimes there's like really, really good ideas, but maybe that article is in process, the same idea. Or we might be holding it for a future issue. So a lot of times you might have a good idea, and it's not that it wasn't a good idea, but somebody might have gotten there a little bit ahead of you. So I think that what's a comfortable timeline, if you're going to think about a timeline, would be to give yourself at least, and tell me if you agree or disagree, Julia, but I would say like about a month to write something. And then submit it. And then it goes through an editorial process. And we're looking at a lot of different things. And some of the things that we're looking for is the supporting imagery. Do we have the right accreditation for it? Permissions, photo credit. We're looking at grammar. We're looking to make sure everything kind of flows. Julia's particularly good at some of that. If there's a lot of editing involved, sometimes we might actually send it back to you and say, here's what we're looking at. And, can you expand on this a little bit more, or, to make sure that we're on the same page with the submission. And so our timeline for producing an issue we're quarterly. So if you kind of think about it that way, it's every 3 months. So for instance, the next issue, the one that we're working on right now, is going to go to press in April. But the next issue, we would be looking for submissions on May 1st. We would go through the editorial process for the month of May. We would enter design in June, and we would target to go to press in July. And usually in that first part of July is when, once the designs come back and we've made, let me back up a bit. When we have a collection of articles that are getting ready to go into the magazine, we assemble something called an imposition, which is sort of like a roadmap. But we have to make some estimations about how many pages the articles are going to be. we have sort of an idea based on the word count, but it also depends on how many photographs there are and what kind of allocation of advertising we have. So it's a little bit of a guess. So until we get those first versions back from our designers, sometimes there's still a little bit of flux in the process. So that's why when we get much closer to print, and I'm sure it's true with other publications too, but when we get closer to print, that's when we want to share a more finalized version with our contributors for their final okay before we go to press. So do you have any other kind of, that was sort of like the thumbnail process. Do you remember what we were talking about with Gay? And she was saying that one of the best things a contributor can do is have somebody read their article out loud back to them.
Yes, I that was an amazing piece of advice in general if you're writing anything ever, because as soon as you speak it out loud, whether it's even you doing it or having someone else read it to you, um, it's amazing what will pop out when you do that. I will never forget that tip. That was such a good one.
Are there
Um,
are there pieces of advice that you'd give contributors, like things that we um,
I mean, the first thing first, whenever anyone approaches me, or if there's some discussion about, oh, there's article potential here, um, is to follow any guidelines that you're given. And this goes for any organization or publication that you're writing for. Um, but guidelines are there for a reason. It's not because we're trying to limit you. It's not because, we don't trust you with the content. Um, if you're given a word count, it's because we know that we can allocate that much space in any given, issue. If you're asked to use a specific writing style or provide reference material in a certain way, do that. If you receive instructions that you don't understand, follow up and ask. We love it when we hear back from our potential contributors saying, "Hey, could you explain exactly what you mean by this, or how would you like me to go about, giving you this information?" And if you don't want to follow up, or if it's something that you just don't feel comfortable asking about, the internet is your friend. When I receive an author's draft and I see like a word or a phrase that I don't recognize, I Google it. It's allowed, I promise. So that's my first advice to anyone. And the second one, which I think this is advice I give to everyone because it's something that I struggle with, and that is, um, when you're choosing a topic, try to be focused, try to make it specific, and avoid trying to cover too much information in one article. It's hard. We want to tell everybody everything, and there is room for that in a book. It's not in an article, and it's really hard because you want people to understand the context of why you're writing something, and that's what the bio is for. The bio will help, and but trying to understand that the person reading this is reading it for the overall topic, not necessarily for how it relates to your whole life story. And again, this is something I struggle with, therefore that's what I sort of tell everybody.
And you reminded me of two things. One is, say you've written sort of a paragraph that summed up kind of the purpose of writing this article. But the second part of that is, if you're still not sure, if you're still kind of feeling like you're wandering a little bit, I suggest putting together an outline. And you can also share the outline with us. We might be able to help you with that. And the third part of that is in editing, a lot of times whatever comes toward the end of the article might be the least important and might be the stuff that gets cut first. So if we're, we have X number of pages, we have too many words, and we have to look to cut, say 150 words or whatever, we're going to be, looking for the least important part of that. And so again, putting some things that if it's okay, they get cut toward the end of the article is helpful. And I think the other thing that that I think I spend a lot of time in is oftentimes checking what I call the digital assets. But those will be like the imagery or the illustrations. You know, we're a print publication. We offer shuttle, spindle, and die pot available digitally for members. But we have to ask for the raw materials in a format that will be printable. So that's why we need the higher resolution images and all that. And again, a lot of times we can solve that for folks. I'm finding that if everybody shoots if you have a fairly new cell phone and you shoot with your cell phone, chances are you have the right resolution image. It might be that the way that you send it to us is downsampling it. So we can give you some tricks to get that imagery to us it'll be print ready. So
Yeah, and I think going right off of that, don't let things like imagery or not being sure that you have the right size of image keep you from reaching out, because like Sally said, there are ways around that. We can talk you through it. We spend a lot of time over email or phone, helping folks get the raw materials to us in a way that is going to work. Something else.
I don't.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go for it.
Well, I was going to say that we started 2 years in a row now. We've done this travel and workshop feature that's going to happen it comes out in January. And we're always looking for people who are traveling to unusual places for fiber adventures. We heard a little bit about some of the residencies earlier today. So if anybody's got travel coming up this summer, like I know a couple of people that went to India recently. And we were really excited when we got that story about Egypt. So, think about us and think about when you're taking pictures. Either we need permission from somebody if they're identifiable, or shoot the picture in such a way that maybe you're not necessarily able to identify the person, but you can see the activity that's happening, the fiber activity or the technique or the beautiful cloth. The other theme issue that we started this past year is, and again, you'd heard me say this earlier when Jerry was presenting, is the idea of technology and textiles. And so if you have an interesting story or know somebody who's involved in a field with adaptive textiles, there's a lot of medical uses, there are architectural uses, just performance textiles. We'd love to hear about those. We're also very interested in sort of creative journey stories, kind of like Judy Harkis. We talked about her tapestry technique, where it doesn't have to be a recipe, but inspiring fellow fiber artists to try something new or something unusual. Like when Susie was talking today, and she's talking about all those different loom adaptations, or who was it that was talking about all the crazy fiber? Was it Sarah Beyer? All the different materials that they were using down in Texas. So, if you're doing something kind of really interesting like that, we love to hear about it. I remember one of the stories that was my favorite to work on was a woman who did the reproduction textiles for NASA, or like it was Houston. It was all the chairs in the command center. So different kinds of community collaborations that are significant, reproduction projects. So I should look and see. I don't know if is anyone still awake out there? Gigi's yoga was pretty effective. We had to kind of fight the urge to sleep on that.
I don't know. I'm just relaxed now. Maybe I'm too relaxed. Some other things that I think are helpful to know when thinking about writing an article are, who's your audience, who's reading this, and don't assume that they know everything that you know. And so, when you start talking about technical terms or fiber art jargon, there might be people who aren't familiar with what you're saying. And so, you can consider adding a short sidebar glossary or just explain it in the text. That's something that often in the editing process, you and I will go through and add. But it's always wonderful when the author is thinking about that because then it can be incorporated directly into the body of whatever you were talking about.
Well, and one final thing too is, again, I really, really want to thank our, what I call our supporters. I call Shuttle, Spindle, and Die Pot a member-supported publication, because it is, it's essentially when you subscribe, you're becoming a member, but it's more than a magazine because you're getting all these other benefits of being a member. And one of the things that I think would be terrific is, to show your support is to, you can buy an issue of the magazine and share it with a friend. We talk about giving a gift of, a gift of the membership, which means subscription to the magazine. So, you know, I just really appreciate, like I said earlier, 222. We're working on issue 222. I've been the editor for 11 years. I think Pam Howard was an editor before me. Um, it's been a long, it's been a long road, and it's pretty amazing when I go back and look at some of those past issues. And we've gotten some really nice compliments lately, and I hope that we can keep kind of pushing forward with it, thanks to our contributors and our members.
All right, well, it's time to wrap you up because as you all know from doing this all day, it's time when I come on camera, it means time to move on to our next presenter. Before we do that, I do want to mention that Carrie Gordon said Columbia Fiber Guild just finished weaving the textiles for Timberline Lodge.
Yay!
Fabric. So thank you for sharing that, Carrie. And to all of you on the West Coast who have stuck with us, or even on the East Coast who've been with us since noon, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're at over 11 and a half hours now. So thanks for being with us. And we have two more presenters. So next up is David Heustess. Dave, if you want to go ahead and start your camera, you're going to talk to us about sustainable container farming for silk. Hi, David.
Hi there. How are you, Liz?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I tell you what, I took a mental health day from work today, and so I've been able to spend my whole time in the studio doing different things and hanging out with all these great presentations. And what a great share-a-thon this has been. I'm just amazed at the community of people that are participating in this today. And so just delighted to be a part of this. When I guess I'll admit that I'm a Gigi Matthews recruit. The minute she told me that this was happening, I was like, when are you signing up? I'll sign up for the session beforehand. And she and I had created a virtual distaff day that was presented through MAFA, or Mid-Atlantic Fiber Association. And so I thought I would share some pictures of working your own silkworm farm. I love sheep, I love animals, I love dogs, all kinds of creatures, but to raise sheep, you need an acre of land per sheep or two, basically. So I was hosting a presentation for my local guild with Cassie Dixon, and she was talking about raising her own silkworms. So as she was talking about it, I went, "Ah, this is something that I might be able to do in my two-story, zero-lot house in Nashville, Tennessee." So I do not profess to be a culturalist. I've done this for 2 summers and skipped a summer and getting ready to come back to it very soon as it warms up here in Tennessee. So I ordered eggs for a bombyx moth because they have been cultivated to produce the finest silk. They're also kind of easy to work with. No fuss, no, for the most part, all they do is eat for about 8 to 10 weeks. And so your job is to feed them 2 or 3 times a day and watch them grow and clean up after them. And then once you hit that 8 weeks or so mark, they will start spinning cocoons for you. So this is some images or graphics I pulled off the internet. Just gives you the life cycle, which we all are familiar with from probably 4th or 6th grade science classes. And this is also a great thing if you're an elementary school teacher, or a science geek or a nature lover. Just a project to do, even if you just do it the one time. So, yeah, there's the joke, which came first, the cocoon or the egg, the moth or the egg. And this is an enlarged or a close-up photo of about 100 or so, 200 of silkworm eggs. And they are tiny, just like teeny, tiny little pebbles that you can find out in the dirt or whatever. They're very small. You might be tempted to count your first batch of eggs when they come from your supplier just to make sure you didn't get ripped off or something like that. You won't want to once you see how small they actually are. So here's a video. As I was saying, the a sheep or two will take an acre of land. If this is my first summer, this is 100 eggs in a yogurt container that I lined with a coffee filter. And you sit and wait for these little creatures to hatch out of their shells. You can kind of see the shell transforming as it's going through its growth and hatching process. They eat part of the shell when they first come out, and then they will move over to this green sloppy stuff, which is actually mulberry mulch. My second summer, that's all my silkworms ate because the mulberry tree branches were out of reach from my source. So, and the mulch is good to start with when they're very young like this because their mouths are tiny and they can't really chew up the mulberry leaves themselves unless you get them some very small ones to begin with. So they're teeny tiny to start with. As they eat and grow, and that's all they do, they get bigger. They shed their skin 3 times, I think it is, during their growth process. So you'll see them change colors. And once they start getting to be about the size of your baby finger, which is about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, you'll start noticing some changes in their behavior. And the bigger they get, and if you use the leaves, you can kind of hover over your ear over the box or container that you have them in. And it sounds like a bowl of Rice Krispies after you pour the milk on. You can hear them munching and crunching away. As they grow in size, I move them from the yogurt container into basically a shoebox. And the first summer I did this was the Knoxville Convergence, which was my first time going to a convergence. And I brought 2 shoeboxes worth of caterpillars with me because they hadn't started spinning yet. So it's very easy to pack them up in the car and drive 3 hours to Knoxville. Here's a little video that I did because I never thought I would actually catch this moment of the silkworms as they get bigger and start to show you that they're ready to make a cocoon. I've just cut up cardboard paper towel rolls and made little sections or compartments for them to go into. If I guessed wrong, they'll crawl out, but I usually find a way to coax them back in or just pick them up and drop them in there. So always make sure my hands are clean if I'm handling them. And they are the best spinners in the world. So they have stopped eating and focusing all their time and attention on making their cocoons. And I think this is another video that will start. And what they're doing, let me see if that's there we go. I call this my lazy guy, one of the slowest spinners I've ever seen. And I always say I'm the slowest one in a classroom or learning a new technique. Well, this guy took like 3 or 4 days extra to get his cocoon spun. So he's in kind of slow motion. And we're going to see a more active one close up and personal here. It's fascinating to watch them. They start by anchoring, throwing out thread to anchor to a corner or a branch, whatever you might have made available to them. This guy he started spinning in the box itself, so I didn't have to do compartment for him or anything. These other guys are still looking around. Maybe they're going to spin. We see how big they've gotten now. The first summer out of 100, I lost about 40. They just didn't survive the process, or who knows what happened to them. But so I ended up with 60 cocoons. This is not a picture of those cocoons. This is just a general picture. But this is what you are harvesting, so to speak. And the silkworm is inside there going through its metamorphosis. And as it matures inside the cocoon, it secretes a new chemical that allows it to break its way through the cocoon, and I have a video for that. It's really kind of fun to watch. The first summer, I really wanted to practice ahimsa and do no harm to the silkworms, so I let all 60 of them hatch. They flutter around in a new container and mate, and then after they're done mating, they will die. The second summer I did this, I let all the eggs go, and a female will lay about 300 to 500 eggs, 300 to 500 eggs. So 30 times 300 is like 9,000 silkworm eggs. So all of a sudden, I had 10 shoe boxes going instead of the one or two. And here he is coming up. If you can catch them in the morning, you will find them breaking through or have just broken through. And that moth that is hovering around the what it is called. I cut that one out of its cook, and there must be a female inside there, or he wouldn't be paying any attention to her. Silkworm moths or bombyx moths mate tail to tail, which has been used in designs for fertility and through in textiles and jewelry and all sorts of ways over the centuries. So it's kind of interesting to see that happen as well. And there he is. The actual moth, the actual moth has no mouth. So after they have come out of the cocoon, they're not eating anymore. They're living off of their body fat. And like I said, once they mate, they are going to pass away anyway. So silk is something that's fascinating to me, and it's easy, I want to say. It's a responsibility, but it's an easy thing to do. So And I've been learning how to spin as a result of this, and am now almost ready to bring my skills to the spinning wheel with my cocoons that I raised after I practiced a little bit more with some store-bought roving there. So that's the
David,
end of.
I,
Yes.
thank you so much for that. We've got to quickly introduce our last presenter, who is Gigi. But thanks for sharing that. And Gigi's going to come on and talk about the economics of the fiber arts. We've got 9 more minutes, folks, until we close this program. So if you are watching, please get in your donations. And David, if you could just select stop share, that would be great.
Yes, I'm looking for it. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Stop share. There it is.
All right, Gigi, you've got 9 minutes.
Okay, well, I love that. And my friend Kate put a little thing in the chat just saying, David, I never thought I would like a video about worms. And I'm scared of worms, but I absolutely love that. So that's a lot of fun. I have seen David's worms in the shoe boxes, by the way. It's quite incredible. And yeah, so give it a try. You know, you can have a farm in a shoebox. But I'm here to talk about sustainability. And I purposely did take the last slot because A, I'm a night owl. And B, I think sustainability is not just an important topic, but it's urgent. And that's why I wanted to end the Fiber-A-Thon with this presentation. So if you've been watching at any point during the day, you probably noticed that a lot of the projects people have been doing have been sustainability oriented, from raising your own silk to the work of Sarah Byers' group, which was amazing stuff. Chi-Ching spinning paper from books. I mean, I could go on and on. Farmers like Rusty Bee Ranch raising their own sheep. There's so much that you can do in sustainability. And it's really important because right now, I would say I keep reading that the textile industry is the second most polluting on earth after oil. And you could argue that it is oil because polyester and synthetic fibers are basically plastics. Now, I don't know if it really is the second, but whatever, we've now got microplastics in the water, down in the deepest parts of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, all the way up in the Arctic. They're finding them in our food supply now. And a lot of this is coming from synthetic fibers. So I just wanted to talk about the extent of the urgency. And just like any topic, there's good news and bad news. I don't want anybody to hit the channel changer. I'm showing my age, but I just want to show a couple of slides, which is the bad news. And then I'll talk about the good news, which is really good news. So I hope that you'll stay tuned to just watch the final 5 minutes that I've got. So I'm just going to share my screen. Again, I just have a couple of slides to get across the point of this urgency. So my first slide, 35% of microplastics released into the world's oceans are from synthetic textiles. That's from a 2018 report by the Institution of Mechanical Engineers. They're a worldwide organization. They produced a report called Engineering Out Fashion Waste. Second slide comes from the United Nations Environment Program in partnership with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. 20% of industrial water pollution globally is attributable to the dyeing and treatment of textiles. And treatment of textiles means things like coating it, you know, making it water resistant or waterproof, or making it wrinkle proof by using formaldehyde so that it can travel from the factory to the warehouse to the store. So there's a lot of chemicals that are used in the treatment of textiles and dyes that are banned in this country. And that's why our clothing gets made in other countries. There's also water scarcity that can be caused. So cotton is a big one for that. I want to talk about just very quickly the Aral Sea. So I'm circling the Aral Sea here. The Aral Sea is in Central Asia. So you've got the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Aral Sea, which is actually misnamed because it's fresh water. It was the 4th largest lake in the world. And I say was because Uzbekistan, which borders the Aral Sea, had its own natural version of cotton. And in 1959, the Soviet Union decreed that Uzbekistan would become a big cotton industry. And so they used the Aral Sea as their source of irrigation. These are NASA photographs, and you have the Aral Sea on one side where you can start to see that it's fading away. This is in 1980. So it's roughly 20 years after this cotton industrialization program begins. And the one on the right, there's no more Aral Sea. There's a little bit left. That's taken in 2014. So that is because cotton tends to grow in arid areas, semi-arid areas. Growing it makes it even worse, makes water scarcity worse. And my last little graphic is in 2015, greenhouse gas emissions from textile production totaled more than those of all international flights and maritime shipping combined. Again, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in association with the United Nations Environment Program. So that's the bad news. I tried to make it as fast as I could, but there you go. I just want to say that there's a lot of good news out there because they're working on getting plastics out of the general use by using eco-friendly bioplastics. We're not quite there yet, but we're almost. We've got a lot of textiles that are biotextiles, eco-friendly textiles. They're in the pipeline. They're not quite here yet, but keep an eye open for them and vote with your wallet. Also, just like there was a hole in the ozone layer in, when was it? I was 22 years old, 1986. And I thought, uh-oh, that's it. I'm not going to make it to be 60 years old. We're all going to die of radiation poisoning. Well, guess what? Every country in the world, for the first time ever, teamed together and signed an agreement to ban CFCs, and it worked. The hole in the ozone is almost healed, and I made it to 60. So what can you do for a solution? Well, the first thing that you can do is just to consider sustainability when you do your work. You've seen in this Fiber-A-Thon all kinds of things. Remember, it's available to watch for 30 days after today on the YouTube channel for HGA. So have a look at some of those presentations that you missed. If you're in a guild, reach out to textile colleges and high schools. The younger generation, believe me, it's their #1 concern, and it is core curriculum in textile arts colleges for the younger generation. So reach out to them, and you'll also get some younger members as well. The third thing you can do is to support organizations like fibershed.org, which works to develop eco-friendly regional fiber systems, Livestock Conservancy, which works to protect endangered livestock breeds, including sheep. As a spinner, I'm part of the Shave 'em to Save 'em program, and you get a nice little passport if you join Shave 'em to Save 'em, where you can get stamps. Oh, my lighting's not so good, but trust me, it's a cute passport. And all of the things that I'm mentioning now and more are, you can see it on my website. I've done this talk to a lot of guilds, so I decided, oh, let me just put it on my website. So share my screen very quickly in the 1 minute I have. If you just Google Gigi Matthews hand spinner, my website will come up. If you go over to the More section, drop down menu, Sustainability Resources, and you will see lots and lots and lots of cool stuff. So I hope that you enjoyed Fiber-A-Thon. I hope that you've donated, you share this with others, and I thank you for being part of our Fiber-A-Thon.
Gigi, thank you so much, and for filling in some of our holes today. We appreciate you. And we appreciate all of our presenters who have been with us today. Wow, what a full day, 12 hours of fiber community, fiber stories. It's been wonderful. So thank you to all of our presenters for donating your time and sharing your stories. I'd like to thank our board for supporting this fundraiser and encouraging presenters to participate. And I thank all of you for watching and for donating to support our mission to educate, inspire, and support the fiber art community. So let's see where we are. It is now midnight Some of you have been with us for 12 hours. So let's take a look and see what we raised today. Okay, we've made it to $8,215.90. What a wonderful day for HGA. That's probably a record for the number of donations we've received in a day. Looking at our database here, 76 of you donated. We had 80 donations today with 76 people who gave. So thank you so much for that. There is still time to give. So if you would like to give, you can continue to, tell a friend. We have a couple challenges that you can remember. Patricia Martin said donate $5. If you liked her 5 tips, please donate $1 for each of those tips. And of course, anyone who donates today will get a save 10% on your next order with Macedo's Mini Acres. And that would be any order between now and April 30th. You'll get your code tomorrow. And then Kathi Grupp has challenged all of her 4-harness loom owners, especially those of you who have a Dorset loom, to donate and support. So if you like our programming, if you can lend an extra $1 or $2, please consider a donation. You can always call us at the office, although our phone lines will be closing now because it is time for the staff to go to bed. But you can call us at 678-730-0010. You can donate online. And if you still prefer to donate the old-fashioned way, please, we'll take your checks too. You can mail them to our mailing address, and we will receive those and make sure that those get processed and added to the Fiber-A-Thon campaign. So thank you all so much. At this point, I'm going to call it a night. And thank you. This will be added to YouTube. Hopefully, depends on how long it takes us to break up the video, get it uploaded, but hopefully within the next week if you missed anything. But you can also watch it now on Facebook. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for supporting HGA.